this live stream from the International Pet Industry Summit in Shanghai. In a few minutes, we'll be joining the international panel discussion dedicated to the recovery post-Covid-19 and opportunities for the pet industry. My name is Yannick Very. I'm in charge of the international development for Pet Fair Asia, other exhibitions in the Pet Fair network, such as our new show in Southeast Asia and the Asia Pet Alliance. In the next few days, I will be guiding you through what has become the largest exhibition in the pet industry in the world, Pet Fair Asia, for its 23rd edition. Today, though, is another important event we are joining. The International Pet Industry Summit is gathering more than 1,000 industry stakeholders every year, one day before Pet Fair Asia. The conference opened just a few hours ago in the morning, so rather than talk about it, let's watch a short morning recap and we'll start the international panel discussion right after that. Let's go.
本次的论坛致辞，掌声有请。
各位届时莅临现场参观指导。同时，亚洲自1997年首次举办以来，已走过了23年的发展历程。
这是一张大表，就是我们来看整个互联网的发展。那前面我列在
亚洲宠物展亚宠 CEO 峰会取得圆满成功，谢谢大家。
数字只是看阿里巴巴特别天猫这个平台我们怎么发展过来的。这是阿里我们过去我们把3个月的数字做出饼图。比较有意思的是看到 Gen Z 就是我们00后那群人，它的饼图在右上角这右上角往往30年经验的部分，你不停地找自己擅长的领域去做。可是今天进来的人群是00后的帮人，我们注意到更多的创新者，在每个市场里面都有足够多的品牌方来联动。我们做的散购模型跟传统的散购模型唯一不一样的，就是在线下是没有实物可以成交的，全部扫码，就是它线下只有体验，扫完码是到第2天我们48小时送到你家。这是一个便利性的一个策略，好吧？所以说在这里边是我们看到很多品类的一些变化，蠢蠢欲动。所以说也是非常希望我们更多的商家拿出你的真本领，在。
Hello, Ms. Zhong. Good afternoon, Shanghai. In this section, we will be talking about the impact of COVID-19 on international pet market and opportunity for pet industry after epidemic. My name is David Zhong. I'm the president of BNU Exhibitions Asia, the organizer of Pet Fair Asia, and chairman of the executive committee Asia Pet Alliance, APPA. I will be our moderator for this afternoon's panel discussion. Joining together with me are 4 incredible industry leaders as our guest speaker. Ms. is Christine Kanyan, CEO of PIJAC Canada. Mr. Victor Mason, Interim President of World Pet Association USA, Mr. Stephen King, CEO of the American Pet Products Association, APPA USA, and Dr. Stefan Hayes, Specialist Pets and International Relations at WZF, the German Pet Trade and Industry Association. Welcome, all of you. If everyone is ready, I would like to introduce Christine Kanyan to speak about Canadian market. Christine spent more than 2 decades in the healthcare sector. He is a specialist of public administration, research, and crisis communication. He was selected to lead PIJAC Canada during the COVID-19 crisis and to drive the future of the association. Christine, welcome to this panel.
Thank you, David, for this introduction and the opportunity to present at this edition of the International Pet Industry Summit and to speak to PIJAC Canada's response in the last few months to COVID-19. It is a privilege to share the virtual stage in Shanghai, sharing some insight from a Canadian perspective on the importance of pets in the emergency management context. For years now, there's been an inclusiveness of pets in emergency preparedness guides and recommendations at all levels of government as part of our philosophy and premise. In this particular pandemic scenario, it was not a matter of displacement and evacuation and about emergency kits. It was about shelter in place and the need to ensure access to essential nutritional and health services for pets during the mandatory confinement period put in place through emergency orders. Governments already had predefined plans on essential services, and with the important roles animals play in mental health, as well as the reality of pets being members of the family, having pet businesses and services available was and is critical. So for us, we never underestimated the importance of strong partnerships and networks. So PIJAC Canada last year had entered into a partnership agreement with the CFIB, which is the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, another non-for-profit organization that is 110,000 members strong across Canada. And we were able to leverage this partnership in a critical time, such as in this current pandemic event, allowing for one strong voice for our industry at all levels of government. The fact they were supportive bilingually to keep providing key services to our members in both official languages was critical. And they helped push for clarity and consistency in legislation, again, at all tiers of government levels. They provided accessibility of resources by provinces and had the central repository through their CFIB links. Access to their business consultants, sharing of information on government funding programs as part of Canada's COVID-19 economic response plan was key for all of our members as well as us, PIJAC, as an organization with ongoing advocacy. So the work of CFIB, along with that of PIJAC Canada, through a strong presence on social media and targeted emails and interviews on a national and regional stage, was able to provide the support to our business throughout this pandemic. And obviously, like everyone, all in this working from home and adjusting to new realities, with having to shift our focus on health and safety as well as business continuity in regards to PIJAC. We were that one credible source of information related to COVID-19 and questions around the risk of transmission between pets and humans or anything related to pet businesses. We were a strong voice supporting advocacy by staying connected with the various animal associations and partners across Canada and globally, and we connected with international associations through new virtual global opportunities for our members. Now we've had to reimagine PIJAC business, finding a different way of connecting pet businesses together and shift to physical shows, our physical shows to virtual platforms. At the onset of the pandemic, with the fluid evolving situation, we had to cancel our first annual physical Western show and move online to our PIJAC website with only 1 month turnaround time to be able to accomplish this. Luckily, all of our exhibitors participated as well as our sponsors, and we're grateful to all of them and our members for their participation and flexibility, which allows us to continue our efforts. We're now at a point where we've had to combine our other 2 Canadian shows to a larger virtual platform. Things haven't stopped. Over 150 exhibitors and growing, and list of visitors increasing weekly, as long as our sponsorship support and seminars with speakers wanting to help, offering opportunities for amazing presentations on various topics. These longtime partners speaks to the strength of our pet community. As COVID hit, we were at our highest number of members in the history of PIJAC Canada, topping 1,400 members, with new members still signing up as of this week. The real story of COVID-19's impact will be revealed this fall during our membership renewal campaign. However, with 80% of businesses having to shut down during the lockdown, pet stores and their suppliers were among the 20% that stayed open, and we're very hopeful for our people and what we have been able to creatively accomplish this year. We will continue to adjust and explore innovative ways of bringing our services to our members as the various jurisdictions and parts of the world move into the next stage of the pandemic, with the understanding that things could change again, depending on additional waves. So adaptability, nimbleness, innovation, planning, partnerships, collaborations are key as we step forward. We need to continue building relationships with key stakeholders within the pet sectors and policymakers. COVID-19 is providing new opportunities to connect and work together by breaking down barriers for the well-being of pets and pet businesses.
Thank you, Christine, for this presentation. I would like to ask you a question to better understand your support to the Canadian industry. What is the most serious disruption you expect in your market after the epidemic in terms of distribution and retail? How can PIJAC address these disruptions? Christine.
Thank you, David, for this question. Domestically, obviously, economic challenges for some of our pet businesses and those impacted by the shutdowns. Though through Canada's strong economic recovery plan, businesses have access to several funding programs, many accessible to the pet industry, as well as to us, PIJAC Canada. So pre-COVID events in Canada had caused some disruptions already in shipments impacting pet businesses suddenly. And interestingly enough, all of that was reversed when COVID-19 impacted us, with minimal disruptions to pet businesses' supply chains compared to other sectors. So despite our border closures with our neighbors south, Canada-USA agreements allowed for flow of products important to pet businesses. Globally, turmoil with supply chains and shipment and costs associated with moving merchandise across the globe has obviously increased. The logistics industry is currently struggling to the current pandemic, and there's a lot of volatility with the ocean freights, not to mention increasing delays with liners. So there is a need to plan ahead and adjust. So PIJAC will continue to monitor, connect, and work with partners to help support our pet industry as our country enters in different stages and plans for any future waves. We must continue to push for that advocacy and leverage our existing partnerships while forging new ones. So some of the exciting news announced by federal government in the expansion of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation APPA agreement, and looking at strengthening rules-based and hope-holding stable and predictable global supply chains. So working with our government and international partners to help scale up businesses and access resources and connections in the Asia-Pacific region, PIJAC will continue to forge its relationships at all levels of government to support our members and pet businesses moving forward, both domestically and abroad.
Thank you, Christine. Our next speaker, Victor Mason, has a 40 years experience in pet industry. He served as CEO and co-founder of a major American distribution company, and he has been a WPA board member since 2010. He's today's CEO of the organization based in California. Vic, welcome to the panel.
Thank you, David. Hi, I'm Vic Mason, president of World Pet Association, serving the pet industry since 1950. Results of a recent survey shows startling detail how the pet industry is thriving amidst the prolonged COVID-19 shutdown. From over 500 respondents from the pet industry, we are finding that they are finding innovative ways to adapt to the current crisis and continue to service their communities with the highest levels of service and care possible. The survey results showcase an industry that has been quick to respond to the crisis and putting in place its many safety protocols. Pet retailers, manufacturers, groomers, and veterinarians have all showed the way forward for the economy at large. In many states, grooming is considered a non-essential business, which means groomers had to shut their doors, compromising the dog's grooming schedule. WPA, with the help of other industry groups, have worked hard to change their status in many states to essential. We continue to work hard for the pet industry to address these challenges. Retail stores have pivoted with strong sales and decreased expenses. From curbside pickup, online ordering, local delivery, many businesses have adjusted their selling avenues to welcome continued sales. Along the way, communities around them ultimately helped keep them going. Many of these retail stores have also faced many challenges. Increased competition from the online channel, Chewy, Amazon, and others. Supply chain management. This includes products, ingredients, and packaging, which has slowed some delivery to the stores. And many employee challenges, not only from sickness of COVID, but also other challenges that many brought on by the government. The online segment, as I noted, Chewy's and Amazon and others, continue to show a large increase, taking a larger market share. In the short term, the pet stores are not being affected because the amount of sales has actually grown as many more animals have come into the market. But we will see how that works in the long term if the online segments keeps that market share. WPA has had to pivot with the cancellation of Superzoo, which was scheduled for September this year. And we have brought a virtual piece, which we like to call a digital piece, which will include education, forums, data management, and anything that information that will be available online to help the retailers and manufacturers and distributors in our industry. And with that, I would like to thank Shanghai and everybody watching today.
Thanks, Vic. I found your approach very interesting. You announced a few weeks ago, WPA had to cancel Superzoo this year, which is pity. What can we expect in the coming months and in year 2021 at WPA? And what is the biggest change you plan to implement in your organization to better serve the U.S. industry?
Well, as noted thank you. As noted from Christine, associations are quite challenged with the cancellation of live events. At WPA, we made a conscious decision to add to our live events with our new WPA 365 digital segment. We really feel that we can bring a lot to the pet community in the categories that I mentioned: education, forum, data management, live contests, and in a way for the retail community and the manufacturing community to connect, to continue new items and keep our industry healthy.
Thanks, Vic. I look forward to seeing all these innovations soon. Our next speaker, Stephen King, is a veteran in the American pet industry. He served as the president of Pet Industry Distribution Association, PIJAC, for close to 30 years. Today, he is the CEO of American Pet Products Association, APPA. Welcome, Steve. Glad to have you with us today.
Thank you, David. I'm happy to be a part of the International Pet Industry Summit today. I want to share some insights that the American Pet Products Association has gathered on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on pet owners in the U.S. We conducted 2 surveys of pet owners earlier this year to see how they and their pets were faring during these lockdowns and social distancing, disruptions to the economy, working from home. And we learned that pet owners continue to hold really steady during the pandemic. So let me share some details with you. 87% of respondents in June said that their pet ownership hasn't changed due to COVID-19, which is a slight increase from May. 6% reported that they got a new pet during the pandemic. But among Gen Z and millennials, that percentage actually who got a new pet was higher, 12 and 10% respectively. Hispanics and families with children and those with household incomes over $100,000 a year also were more likely to have gotten a new pet. 64% said that the current economy hasn't influenced their pet spending. And of those who have made changes, actually 22% spent more on their pets and 14% reported spending less. Now we know that online sources, as Vic just mentioned, of pet supplies has increased their share of the overall market during COVID. But the majority of pet owners still shop in brick and mortar stores. Online accounted for about 20% of food sales, 22% of toys, and 23% of vitamins and supplements. And most food and supplies were purchased in either discount mass merchant stores, pet superstores, and supermarkets. Medications are predominantly purchased from a veterinary clinic, about 41%. Now, even though most products were purchased in person at a physical store, many stores began offering options such as purchase online and pick up at the store or curbside delivery. And we really expect these omni-channel options to continue really as a convenience to shoppers, certainly during as long as the pandemic can continue. Now, while pantry stocking was most prevalent in the early days of the pandemic shutdown in the U.S., which was largely from May or from mid to late March, even during May and June, pet owners reported stocking up on pet supplies when shopping, particularly on food. This probably reflects the fact that shoppers are consolidating their shopping trips and they're going out less frequently during the pandemic. Now, 71% of pet owners actually report that spending time with their pets is helping to reduce their stress levels and increase their sense of well-being during the pandemic. While just under 30% reported that COVID-19 has had a positive effect on their pet ownership, more than 40% of Gen Z and those with household incomes over $100,000 a year reported a positive effect. Here you can see a marked difference in attitude from May to June regarding when people expect life to get back to normal. Those who thought that the pandemic would pass within 2 to 3 months dropped from 28% to 21% from May to June. And those who thought it would take a year or more increased from 21% to 27%. Finally, we hope that all of you can join us at Global Pet Expo in Orlando, Florida next March 24 through 26. I want to thank you for your attention. I hope this information was useful in understanding the current state of the U.S. pet market.
Thanks, Stephen. I appreciate the level of details in your summary. I have 2 questions for you. what is the most difficult aspect your team at APPA and working on a study like this one, or the National Pet Owner Survey you publish every other year? Second question is, what is the most important change you can expect at Global Pet Expo in 2021? Stephen?
Yes, well, speaking first of the National Pet Owner Survey, as you know, David, we have produced that for over 20 years. And really the biggest challenge, I think, is for us to make the data more accessible. We started out with a printed book that we mailed out to everyone who subscribed. And then we, of course, came out with a digital version just a few years ago, so that it was easy to access online from anyone's desktop. Most recently, we've come up with what I think is a very exciting innovation, and that is an online portal where members can actually go in and do customized research on all the data that's in the survey. So, for example, let's say you were interested in the sale of rabbit hutches to Hispanic consumers in the Southwest United States who have children and household income over $50,000 a year. You can actually do that custom research on your own using that portal. So it's a really powerful tool that we have put in the hands of our members and anyone, frankly, in the world who wants to access that data. With regard to Global Pet Expo, as I wrote in our newsletter last week, Global Pet Expo 2021 will be different, and in many ways better, we hope, certainly in prior shows. So first, we're hopeful that we can do a live event, but there's no guarantee. So we're doing everything we can right now to prepare for whatever eventuality occurs, and we're going to certainly take all necessary measures to ensure the safety and health of those who do attend if we can do a live event. Second, there will certainly be a digital component to the show to allow those who can attend to still participate in it virtually. And then third, we're planning a new, what we call a global learning series, where we'll incorporate learning for learning events for all attendees, whether retailers, distributors, or manufacturers. We've had for many years what we call our Retailer Success Series that is geared towards independent retailers in our industry. We're adding APPA learning experiences, including a retail tour, interest group meetups, and other experiential activities. And then finally, we'll be doing some market research sessions to really take advantage of the great research that we've done and continue to do with the National Pet Owner Survey. So we're certainly very excited about next March and hope that everyone can be there with us at the show.
Thank you, Stephen. We look forward to visiting Orlando again next March. Our next speaker is joining us from Berlin, Germany. Dr. Stefan Hetz is an internationally recognized animal physiologist. His role of ZDF, the German Pet Trade Association, is to observe and analyze development in international and national pet trade and trends in pet keeping. He works closely with local governments to develop regulations and support the pet industry and the well-being of pets. Stefan, please.
Thank you, David, for inviting me, and hello, Shanghai, and hello, Internet. So my talk will be on the effects of COVID-19 on the German pet business and ways how we dealt with that. And thank you again for inviting me. So I have a background in biology. I worked as an animal physiologist, and I had a lot to do with pet keeping, and I'm also a hobbyist. I'm keeping lots of fish in some fish tanks. So my job in the CCF is I look what's going on in science and research regarding to animal husbandry, animal health, and I also support the CCF Pet Academy. in the legislation, there is one of my biggest parts. I have to check what new laws are going on European and German level, and I have to watch what the government is trying to do at the moment. I also keep contact with veterinary associations, hobby associations, with NGOs, and of course with politics. So the COVID-19 pandemic hit us very hard, and in the end we had these lockdown in Germany in the beginning and mid of March. And who was affected from our business? So it was the pet shops, as we already heard from the previous speakers, and the breeders and importers, the people that are importing fish and breed fish or breed not dogs, but breed birds and breed small mammals and so on. And the pet care, the groomers, as we already have heard, and of course the hardware manufacturers, because with the lots of flights who were just cancelled, it was increasingly hard to get parts from all over the world. And there was a lot of things going on in the public opinion about keeping pets at all. So the most important questions were, will there be a closing of pet shops? Will there be a closing of breeders and importers? And there were limited cargo capacities for animal transports. The groomers were especially affected, as we already have heard. Will they be treated like pet hairdressers or what else? And the hardware manufacturers had to cope with these limited cargo capacities. And the public opinion was, do pets or exotic pets or dogs and cats really push a threat on human health, which was very important. What did we do? So we asked that the pet shops stay open, as we already heard all over the world. The pet shops stood open and they ensured that the pets are supplied with food and with health products and whatever. The breeders and importers could stay open. They worked in small isolated teams, which was very important to keep the risk very low. And the cargo capacities that was really affecting that. The groomers had the biggest problems because we adopted the veterinarian hygiene guidelines, but many federal states thought they should be treated like dog hairdressers or something like that. And the hardware manufacturers, well, I couldn't do very much for them. The public opinion was very, very interesting. There were certain news releases that pets, probably like dogs or cats, probably could catch COVID-19 and probably also could spread the disease, and nobody knew at the beginning. And as we all expected, the NGOs, they took this COVID-19 pandemic to bring their own interest into the public opinion. So there was a publication of Pro-Wildlife, which is a German-based NGO, on strategies to reduce demand for exotic animals and reduce the trade in exotic pets. And these publication, together with other reasons, was used to say exotic pets may cause the next pandemic, and they were asking for a total ban of wild animals and pets. And they were not even not only asking for a ban of illegal traded pets, but they were really asking for a ban of all also legal traded wildlife. And that was really hard. So what did we do? We checked the scientific facts behind these arguments, and we were writing down a comment on the NGO's request. And the outcomes of the comment was: pet animals do not cause a threat. Most zoonosis can be avoided by simple hygiene measures, especially if you keep fish or terraria animals. If you have a screen between you and the animal, your problems are almost going down to zero. So we were distributing this comment to all members of parliament and government people, and we were asking for them to discuss with us. And we had some responses, and it's on some ongoing responses, and we are learning from them. We are learning the arguments, and we are checking the arguments, and there is an ongoing discussion. That is, in short, what we do. I could talk hours about all these things, but maybe I can answer some questions later. So my take-home message is: expect the unexpected. For Germany, it was the first pandemic, so it was hard to figure out whom to address, and so on and so on. Collect and write down arguments. They may be useful for other reasons. The discussion on zoonosis is very, very present in the German public at the time. And be prepared, of course. So this was it in brief. Thank you for your attention. If you need to contact me, feel free to send me an email address. Thank you.
Thanks, Stefan. Working with authority seems to be the key in your case. How does DVF maintain a close relation with authority and maintain pet business open? What is the most serious disruption you expect in Germany after the epidemic?
Thanks, David. Two very interesting questions. Let me start with the first question. So the CCF normally has two meetings, two annual meetings. One meeting is on with members of parliament. It's called a Parlamentarischer Abend in Germany. So you meet members of parliament in a nice location, and you have the time to talk with them. And this is very interesting to keep in contact with them and to see what's going on. And the other one is another meeting. It's called Wir fürs Tier, so we for the animal. And it's also with NGOs and politicians and keynote speakers, which is also very important. And then we have a lot of other meetings where we can address veterinarians and so on. So this is very important to have all these people. It was particularly hard for me to find all the important people in Germany, because Germany is a federal state. So we were writing out 16 letters to the people we think that were the important people to address, and we get 30 letters or even more back. And yeah, it was hard, but we are learning and learning all the time. To your second question, for me it was surprisingly less affected. The whole pet trade was less affected, as I already heard from the previous speakers. So there were lots of people who were using the time to inform them much more about pet keeping. So my opinion, and also from social media, was that it's the interest in pet keeping was really going higher. So, and this is in brief what was my impression from the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. I will now take the floor for a few minutes in order to share information from an Asian perspective and present some of the action initiatives at the Asia Pet Alliance, APA. APA is a very young organization established 1 year ago on Pet Fair Asia 2019. With 60 founding members, we decide the mission of APA is to support the interests of pet industry, develop responsible pet ownership, assist authority with regularity matters, and encourage exchange between pet industry, communities, organizations, associations in China, Asia, and the rest of the world. The APA is the first organization in Asia dedicated to the pet industry. It gathering manufacturers, distributors, retailers, associations, local communities, and individuals involved in the pet supply trade. What is APA? We see ourselves as informational hub to the whole industry, with feeding the industry by most updated informations and knowledge, inspiring best practice, With our more than 50 online and offline events annually, we trained nationwide retailers. Give you some sample of our event. Our world famous leading trade fair, Pet Fair Asia, will be opening tomorrow. It will cover 2.25 million square feet fairground. So quite sure it is the largest trade show in the world by now. And we also wanted to share with you our flagship events, horizontal event, APVC, the Asian Pet Veterinary Conference. It is a leading event for China's veterinary industry. And very interesting events, we are launching APPA's Asia Pet Assembly, which will be held in end of the year, gathering whole Asia's industry to evaluate the year's performance, exchange ideas, and trade information, but also focus the development of the industry in the coming year. Last but not least, very important as the association, APPA is also launching our e-platform as a marketplace. The first version will be launched tomorrow, same time as opening of Pet Fair Asia. We are launching our e-Pet Fair, which is mainly for China buyers to find the most updated products from the industry. So we didn't decide the English name yet, but call it Chinese name 门从找货网 Online Pet Fair Asia. Share something about APPA, how we support the industry during COVID-19 time. At the beginning of the crisis, the leaders from industry of APPA decided to focus on helping pets in crisis situation because we believe pets helps our industry. Meantime, we think the self-confidence is the key of our industry. So we decide also support the confidence of the whole industry by training, but also by lobbying to the authority that develop ideas that pet keeping is positive for everyone in modern China society, especially in this difficult moment. We also sent a crew team to Wuhan for shooting a documentary called Close Down But Love. It's recorded a live situation there at beginning of the crisis on situation how pet and their keepers difficulty and how people also grow up and help each other. Meanwhile, we think to exchange information between pet industry community, organization, and the local association is very important. So we launched an APPA initiative as a campaign to unite nationwide pet industry. For example, we united industry professionals to assist Wuhan's population and rescue pets in epidemic area. And we also create, at the first time, a national federal or pet industry association and a society to coordinate national-wide actions and accelerate official recognition of the role played by pet in China society. We are very happy to see that with APPA support, local governments attach increasing importance to misbehavior in pet ownership. First fine for pet abandoned in Shanghai in July 2020. Very important activity of APPA. We are launched by the first time in China a China National Pet Industry Annual Report in few minutes on this forum to help the Chinese pet industry and our colleagues from all over the world to have an in-depth understanding of recent China pet industry and the market trend. As a conclusion, we should recognize APPA is building a community for the Asian pet industry. Thank you for listening my presentation. And now let's invite back all our panelists. Let's start our short Q&A. I'm very interested to understand the trend in global trade and study how we would influence them as organizations. Let's start with a first question. We observed a restructuring of global pet trade with growing China-US economic tension, but also ups and downs with Canada and Europe. How do you think these recent revolutions will influence global pet trade? Christine, please.
Thank you, David. I think we could observe changing geopolitical landscapes prior to COVID-19, and there is some uncertainty how the pandemic now will shift some of these once we return to a new normal. So, for example, despite the recent ratification of trade agreements between the United States, Mexico, and Canada, tensions continue to cause concern. Luckily, no significant impact to our pet businesses at this time. On the other hand, other international trade and commerce agreements, such as the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnerships, CPTPP, a free trade agreement between Canada and 10 other countries in the Asia-Pacific region, will be an asset for several Oceania countries wishing to export their goods to Canada. So from our perspective, PED continue, and PIJAC Canada is certainly looking at how we shift some of our programs to support the pet industry and help businesses navigate the various aspects of the commerce.
Thanks, Christine. May I invite Stefan?
Thank you, David. Thank you for the question. So from my perspective in Germany, I have learned that the people are looking much more after zoonosis, animal health. So this will be a very important point for the future to increase animal health, also to look for some sustainably bred animals, the animal welfare. I think this is one of the most important things. I'm not sure why, but I think it was the zoonosis, the pandemic stuff, and so on. And this coincides with some European-wide legislation at the moment. There will be an animal health law in the European Union, and the animal health law will come into effect next year in April. And it will also affect the trade of animals, the health of animals, the zoonosis, the risk of zoonosis, and so on. And this is, for my example, one point that we have to jump in and improve our breeding techniques and our measures on animal health. And the people, they have become much more interesting in all these animal health things, and I think this would be one of the most important points that we have to address in the futures from the pet perspective, not from the whole trade. Thanks.
Thank you, Stefan. Now I please invite Stephen.
Thank you, David. Well, there's an axiom in business, and that is that businesses don't like uncertainty. And if nothing else, we've had a year or more of uncertainty. And certainly with regard to China trade in the US, the tariffs that were imposed almost 2 years ago now have injected an element of uncertainty to that trade. I think what we're seeing, and certainly then with the add-on the pandemic to that, it has created greater supply chain issues than we experienced in the past. So what we're hearing from US-based importers and manufacturers is they are looking for alternative sources of goods. And there are more countries available today who have that capability of supplying product at the price points that our manufacturers and consumers expect. So countries such as Vietnam, India, in North America, as Christine alluded to, even with some of the challenges, we do have a new trade agreement between Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. So I think what Chinese manufacturers are going to be facing is really increased competition globally from suppliers around the world.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. May I turn a little bit around the question? Vic, how do you expect American brand to perform in China in the near future?
Thank you for that question, David. American products have done well in China in the past, and my expectation is that that will continue. As Steve points out, uncertainty seems to be the biggest issue. Certainly, agreements between U.S. and China, that comes into play. Different government regulations from both sides, tariffs, limited or challenged logistics. I think that really comes into play. It's certainly our goal to use our influence as much as we can with government agencies to help product flow from both the U.S. To China, but also the other way around. So our hope is that we can come to some sort of agreement, our governments, so product will flow freely both ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Vic. My second question, with current circumstances in mind, ongoing epidemic, economic tensions, what do you think our role as regional organization should be to facilitate global trade and leverage opportunity for our industry? Now I invite Stephen first.
Yes, well, we do play a very important role, all of us. And I think as much as anything, it's certainly our events, the ability to bring people from throughout the world together in one place to share ideas, to see new products. One of the things that we're very proud of with Global Pet Expo is that we've had over 300 international exhibitors at our show representing 34 countries. So it's about 25% of all of our exhibitors come from outside of the US. In 2019, which is our last, I would say, normal show, we had 160 Chinese companies and over 190 companies from throughout Asia. So we certainly are what we would consider an international marketplace. And likewise, we had about 2,000 international buyers from representing 78 countries at the show. So for me and for our organization, continuing to be able to bring that sort of gathering together, international gathering, is critical to continued success within our industry.
Thank you, Stephen. Stefan, please.
Yeah, for me it's a little bit different. So what we have learned is that the public discussion about keeping pets and keeping especially exotic pets is driven by the NGOs at the moment. So the NGOs have they drive the discussion about it. So, and we can sometimes we can react, but we have to more act before the NGOs take over all of the discussion about it. This is especially important at the moment. If you look at exotic pets, they use zoonosis and pandemics to try to forbid the keeping of exotic pets, but they don't look at sustainability. For example, if you go to South America and look at some indigenous people that are doing business with catching fish and giving them to exporters. This is very important. And there was a very interesting discussion in the German Parliament about several things of pet trade. And for example, the WWF also had a strong opinion that you don't have to ban all these pet trade. This is very, very, very important. So our goal is to sort out the different aspects and the different things which are behind this ask for a ban of wildlife trade. Wildlife trade can mean anything. It can mean selling illegal tuskers or ivory to people, but it could also be just catching a fish somewhere in the Amazon and bring it to people in Berlin, for example. So we have to increasingly work on how to sort out these different things and try to get in direct contact with the politicians. That is my most important thing I have to do in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Thank you for your opinion. Vic, please.
Thanks again, David. Well, I would say events like this, where all of us can come together and voice our opinions, I think is very important on how we can help global trade and help all of our industries. So I think events like this is a great place to start. Anytime you can share information and work together, I think and really we all have the same goals at the end. So I think events like this is one of the big parts of how we can help.
Thanks. Thank you for your recognition of our ideas. It makes me very happy as a founder of the forum. So let me invite Christine.
Thank you, David. And I'm going to approach this from probably two perspectives. First, from the industry side of things, where, as Stephen indicated, the uncertainty in the markets and in the industry, but the ability to be adaptable, innovative, looking at planning and partnerships and collaboration will be really key moving forward. And we must continue to build our relationships with these stakeholders within the pet sectors and policymakers as well, both domestically and globally. In switching now to the advocacy side of things, where we've seen that the availability of pets during the pandemic was very much an issue because of supplies and a number of people adopting and purchasing pets. And in reference to Stefan and I think the importance that we need to bring to our role in advocacy with the policymakers and looking at legislation to ensure the well-being of pets down the road is key. We had an unfortunate incident that made the news during the pandemic of importation of dogs from Ukraine, where unfortunately several of the puppies, when they arrived, were actually died when they got to Canada. So I think there's importance that we have to continue to have those voices at the industry to make sure that we have that advocacy and support and opportunities to connect virtually or until we're able to once again have those on-site visits of our markets, but also having that strong advocacy side to ensure the well-being of pets in the long run.
Thank you, Christine. Well, it is almost time to wrap up. It looks like the pet industry is in a good position to continue performing well. But something seems to be very clear to me after watching these presentations. More than ever, we need to rely on information to make a proper strategy choice, understand the data, understand the people we serve, technology, and the people working together. I would like to thank to all our 4 panelists again for their time, their wisdom, and the vision they accept to share with us today. I also need to thank all audience attending the International Pet Industry Summit, IPRS, in Shanghai today, and anyone watching the live streaming on this event on social media. Thank you all, and see you again next year, face-to-face, hopefully. Mr. Zhang Ying, the floor is now yours again. Have a good afternoon in Shanghai. Thank you. Bye-bye.